Wheels of fire spin through ancient skies. Eyes cover every surface, watching everything below. Not just wheels, but something alive and powerful. What if these strange beings still watch us today? A prophet named Ezekiel saw them 2,000 years ago. He fell to his knees, trembling at the sight. Could these mysterious angels hold secrets about God's power? In ancient Babylon, a young priest sits by the river. His name is Ezekiel, and his people are prisoners here. The sky suddenly tears open above him. Dark clouds swirl with lightning and fire. 4 glowing creatures emerge from the storm. Each one has 4 different faces. A human face looks forward with piercing eyes. A lion's face roars on the right side. An ox face appears strong on the left. An eagle's face watches from behind. But something even stranger appears next to them. Wheels within wheels, spinning in impossible directions. The wheels are covered with countless watching eyes. They move without turning in any direction they choose. What are these mysterious beings called the Ophanim? Angels appear 108 times in ancient writings. They helped Abraham and Jacob in their darkest hours. Moses met them during 40 years in the wilderness, but none were as strange as what Ezekiel saw. The word Ophanim means wheels in the ancient language. Regular wheels carry carts and chariots across the land. But these wheels carry something far more powerful. They support the very throne of God Himself. Who was this prophet who saw such impossible things? Ezekiel's name means God gives strength to His people. He lived during the hardest time in his nation's history. King Nebuchadnezzar had conquered their homeland completely. 10,000 prisoners were taken to Babylon, including Ezekiel. He lived with other exiles by the Kaba River. Many had lost all hope of seeing home again. But God had not forgotten His people in exile. While Jeremiah preached God's message back in Jerusalem, Ezekiel would speak to the captives in Babylon. Both voices carried the same powerful message of hope. God was still with them, even in judgment. The vision begins on a normal day by the river. Ezekiel sits with other exiles, remembering their homeland. Suddenly, the heavens split open before his eyes. A mighty wind rushes from the north, bringing darkness. Inside the cloud, something gleams like molten metal. The prophet struggles to describe what he's seeing. Words fail him as he witnesses the impossible. How do you explain something beyond human understanding? The 4 living creatures shine brighter than the sun. Their legs are straight, like pillars of bronze. Their feet sparkle like polished metal in firelight. Under their wings, he sees human hands. The creatures move together as one unified being. They never turn, but move straight in any direction. Wherever the spirit goes, they follow instantly. Are these the cherubim who guard God's presence? The same beings who blocked Eden after the fall? The ones carved in gold above the special promise box. Moses was told to make them for God's house. They attend God's throne and carry out His will, not chubby baby angels like paintings show us. These are powerful warriors of the heavenly realm. Each face represents a different kind of power. The human face shows wisdom and understanding. The lion face displays unstoppable strength and courage. The ox face reveals patient service and endurance. The eagle face soars above all earthly limits. Together, they show God is everywhere at once. Even in Babylon, God had not abandoned Ezekiel. No place exists where God cannot reach us. But then Ezekiel sees something even more amazing. Beside each creature spins a massive wheel. Not ordinary wheels, but something like a gyroscope. One wheel intersects another at right angles. They can move in any direction without turning. The rims tower high above Ezekiel's head. Every inch is covered with watching eyes. Do these eyes represent God seeing everything? The wheels move perfectly with the living creatures. When the creatures rise, the wheels rise too. When they stop, the wheels stop instantly. The same spirit controls both creatures and wheels. What message was God sending through this vision? The wheels show God's throne can go anywhere. His power reaches every corner of creation. Nothing happens without His knowledge or permission. The prophet sees continuous motion and divine activity. Yet, there's no chaos, only perfect order. Like ball bearings moving without any steering mechanism. How can something so complex work so smoothly? Above the creatures stretches a crystal dome. It gleams like ice in winter sunlight. The sound of wings echoes like rushing waterfalls, like the voice of God Himself speaking thunder, like an army of thousands marching together. When they stop, their wings lower in reverence. A voice speaks from above. The crystal expands. What words could come from such a place? Above everything sits a throne of blue stone. On the throne sits a figure like a man. But this is no ordinary human being. From his waist up, he glows like metal in fire. From his waist down, flames dance and light radiates from him in every direction. A rainbow circles the throne like after rain, the same rainbow promise God gave to Noah. Could this be the very glory of God? Ezekiel falls on his face before such majesty. No human can stand before such awesome power. A voice begins speaking to the trembling prophet. God has chosen him for a special mission. He must speak God's words to the exiled people, even if they refuse to listen or obey. The vision gives Ezekiel strength for hard days ahead. God shows him that heaven's power hasn't diminished. Though Jerusalem falls, God still rules from his throne. The wheels remind us God moves through all history. His plans cannot be stopped by any earthly power. But why do some call the wheels actual angels? Scripture never directly says the Ophanim are angels. They might be divine machines rather than beings. Ancient Jewish writers later called them a type of angel. They ranked them with seraphim and cherubim. The wheels seemed too alive to be mere objects. Their supernatural power suggested something more. What if they represent a different kind of angel? Does it matter if they're angels or God's chariot? What matters is what they reveal about God himself. The wheels show us three amazing truths. First, that God can be everywhere at once. No place exists beyond his presence or reach. Second, the many eyes show God sees everything. Nothing remains hidden from his perfect sight. Third, the Spirit in the wheels shows God's control. He guides all creation according to his plan. These truths brought hope to the exiles in Babylon. They bring the same hope to us today. When life feels out of control, remember the wheels. God's throne still moves through human history, but there's more to this supernatural realm. Our struggle isn't against things we can see. Invisible forces of good and evil surround us. Angels and demons wage war in heavenly places. Why should believers understand these spiritual realities? Because our real enemies aren't flesh and blood. Dark spiritual powers work against God's people. But God's angels, including the Ophanim, fight for us. Remember when a prophet's servant feared an army. The prophet asked God to open his eyes. Suddenly, he saw hills covered with fiery chariots. God's invisible army was greater than the enemy. Could those chariots have included the Ophanim? This world we see isn't our true home. A greater reality exists beyond our physical senses. When we understand this, we live differently. We stop fearing what humans can do to us. We trust God's power working behind the scenes. Ezekiel needed this vision for his difficult ministry. God called him to speak hard truths to stubborn people. Many times he had to act out strange prophecies. He used visual aids and dramatic performances. Once he lay on his side for over a year. Another time, he cooked food over dung. He shaved his head and divided the hair. Each action carried a message from God. Why did God require such unusual methods? Because people had stopped listening to normal preaching. Their hearts had grown hard in exile. Only shocking displays could break through their defenses. Ezekiel obeyed, even when it seemed embarrassing. The elders came to hear his strange messages. They listened, but refused to change their ways. How frustrating for a prophet who tried so hard. God called Ezekiel a watchman for the people. like a guard who spots an approaching army. He must warn them, or their blood is on him. But if they ignore the warning, that's their choice. What can we learn from Ezekiel's faithfulness? Sometimes God asks us to do difficult things. People might not understand or appreciate our efforts, but obedience to God matters more than human approval. The vision of the wheels strengthened Ezekiel's resolve. Whenever he felt alone, he remembered God's throne. The Ophanim were always moving and working. God's plans continued despite human rebellion. This same truth encourages believers today. When evil seems to win, remember the wheels. When prayers seem unanswered, remember the eyes. God sees every tear and hears every cry. His timing is perfect, though we don't understand. The wheels never stop turning toward justice. Let's explore the different types of angels. The Bible describes several ranks of heavenly beings. Most angels are simply called messengers of God. They appear throughout Scripture, helping God's people. But some angels have special roles and names. The cherubim guard holy places and God's throne. They first appeared at Eden's gate with flaming swords. The seraphim, whose name means burning ones, serve God. Isaiah saw them crying, "Holy, holy, holy." Each had 6 wings and flew around God's throne. Michael, the archangel, leads God's heavenly army. His name asks, "Who is like God himself?" Gabriel, whose name means God's mighty one, brings messages. He appeared to Daniel, Mary, and others. But what about the mysterious Ophanim wheel? Are they angels or something entirely different? Perhaps they represent a unique creation altogether. Something between machine and living being. A divine technology beyond our understanding. Or maybe they're the highest form of angel, so close to God, they've become His very chariot. What matters isn't solving every mystery. Some things remain beyond human comprehension. But we can trust what the vision teaches. God remains in control despite appearances. His presence goes with us into exile. His eyes watch over us with perfect love. His wheels turn events toward His purposes. No empire or ruler can stop His plans. This message resonated with the Babylonian exiles. They thought God had abandoned them forever. Their temple lay in ruins far away. Their kingdom had fallen to pagan armies. Where was the God of their ancestors now? The vision answered with overwhelming power. God hadn't stayed behind in Jerusalem's rubble. His throne moved freely throughout all creation. Even in Babylon, He remained their God. The same truth applies to modern believers. When culture turns against biblical values, when wrong choices seem to rule the day, when even churches compromise with the world, remember Ezekiel's vision of the wheels. God hasn't abandoned His faithful people. His throne still moves through human events. The Ophanim still carry His presence everywhere. Angels still serve those who trust in God. We may not see them with physical eyes, but they work behind the scenes constantly. They protect us from dangers we never know. They fight spiritual battles on our behalf. They carry our prayers before God's throne. How different would we live knowing this truth? Every believer has access to heavenly help, not through our own power or worthiness, but because God freely gives us His Spirit. The same Spirit that moved the wheels, the same power that raised the dead. This Spirit lives inside every believer today. We carry God's presence wherever we go. What an amazing thought to consider daily. The God of the Ophanim dwells within us. His eyes see through our eyes with compassion. His wheels turn our circumstances for good. Nothing can separate us from His love. Not exile or empire or earthly power. This was Ezekiel's message to discouraged exiles. This remains God's message to us today. The vision appeared 3 more times to Ezekiel, each time revealing more about God's plans. In chapter 10, the prophet sees the wheels again. This time, he clearly identifies them with cherubim. The glory of God rises from the temple. It moves to the threshold, then to the east gate. Finally, it departs from the city completely. The wheels carry God's presence away from Jerusalem. Why would God leave His own holy city? Because the people had broken their special promise. They worshipped false gods in His house. They oppressed the poor and ignored justice. They trusted in politics rather than prayer. So God's throne moved away on the wheels. But the departure wasn't permanent or final. Later, Ezekiel sees the wheels returning. God's glory comes back to a restored temple. The wheels bring hope of future restoration. This pattern repeats throughout human history. When people rebel, God's presence withdraws, but He always preserves a faithful remnant. Through them, He works His restoration plans. The wheels keep turning toward redemption. One day, Ezekiel sees a valley of dry bones. God asks, "Can these bones live again?" The prophet wisely says, "Only you know, Lord." Then God's Spirit breathes life into death. The bones rise as a mighty living army. What seemed impossible becomes reality through God. The same power in the wheels raises the dead. This gives hope when situations seem hopeless, when relationships seem beyond repair, when dreams lie scattered like dry bones. Remember the God of the turning wheels. He specializes in bringing life from death. His plans include restoration and renewal. The wheels are always moving toward that goal. But why does God reveal such strange visions? Why not just speak in plain, simple words? Because sometimes words alone aren't enough. We need images that burn into our memory, pictures that sustain us through dark valleys. The wheels remind us of deeper realities. This visible world isn't all that exists. Greater powers work behind the curtain, and the greatest power serves those who trust. When Ezekiel finished his ministry, he had succeeded, not because everyone listened and obeyed. Most ignored his warnings until too late, but he faithfully delivered God's message. He showed them visions of judgment and hope. He proved God hadn't forgotten his people. The wheels kept turning through all their rebellion, and eventually the exiles returned home. The temple was rebuilt, though smaller than before. The promises found fulfillment in unexpected ways. God's throne had never really left them. It had been moving through their suffering, working all things according to his purpose. The Ophanim teach us about God's nature. He is everywhere present, yet personally involved. He sees everything, yet cares about individuals. He controls history, yet gives us free choice. These paradoxes exceed human understanding completely, but the wheels show they all work together. In God, there is no contradiction or confusion, only perfect wisdom and infinite love. The eyes see our pain and count our tears. The wheels turn our trials into triumph. The throne remains steady through every storm. This is the God Ezekiel saw by the river. This is the God who rules today. His throne still moves on wheels of fire. His eyes still watch his children everywhere. Spirit still empowers those who believe. We may not see the Ophanim directly, but we can see their effects in our lives. When impossible doors suddenly swing open. When provision comes from unexpected sources. When protection surrounds us in danger. The wheels are turning behind the scenes. Angels are working at God's command. The throne is moving toward our deliverance. This isn't wishful thinking or fantasy. It's the testimony of countless believers. From Ezekiel's time to this very day, God's people have experienced supernatural help. In persecution, they've found divine strength. In poverty, they've discovered heavenly provision. In loneliness, they've felt God's presence. The wheels never stop turning for them. What about you in your current situation? Do you feel exiled from God's blessings? Does life seem out of control and chaotic? Remember the vision Ezekiel saw that day. The God of the wheels knows where you are. His eyes see every detail of your struggle. His throne can reach you anywhere, anytime. The Ophanim are moving even now. Trust the one who rides upon the wheels. He hasn't forgotten or abandoned you. Your exile won't last forever either. The wheels are turning toward your restoration. Keep faith like Ezekiel by the river. Watch for God's glory to break through. Listen for His voice above the storm. He still speaks to those who will hear. He still reveals Himself to seeking hearts. The mysterious wheels still carry His throne. And one day we'll see them for ourselves, when this earthly exile finally ends. When we stand before the throne of God, we'll see the Ophanim in all their glory, the wheels within wheels spinning with fire, the countless eyes watching with perfect love, the cherubim singing, "Holy, holy, holy." And we'll understand what Ezekiel saw. The mystery will become crystal clear. We'll see how the wheels were always turning, how every detail served God's perfect plan, how the eyes saw what we couldn't see, how the throne was always in control. Until that day, we walk by faith. We trust what the prophets saw and wrote. We believe in the God of the wheels, the one who moves through all of history, the one who sees and knows everything, the one who loves us with eternal love. The Ophanim remind us we're not alone. Heaven's armies surround God's faithful people. The wheels are turning in our favor. The eyes are watching over us with care. The throne will triumph over every enemy. This is the message of Ezekiel's vision. This is the hope for every believer. The mysterious wheels will keep on turning until God's kingdom comes in all its glory, until every wrong is finally made right, until we see Him face to face. What will you do with this revelation today? Will you trust the God of the turning wheels? Will you believe His eyes see your situation? Will you rest, knowing His throne still rules? The choice is yours, just like the exiles. You can doubt and despair in your circumstances, or you can remember the vision of power. The Ophanim are real and they're moving now. God's throne travels on wheels of holy fire. His purposes will prevail in your life too. Trust Him like Ezekiel did so long ago. The God of the mysterious wheels is faithful. He was faithful then and remains faithful now. The wheels never stop turning toward hope, and neither should we in following Him.